Mm-hmm. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this new conference organized by the Council
Not yet.
of
One sec.
the International. Is there a problem?
It's okay. Just 1 moment.
Okay.
It's 30 seconds before we're live. 1 moment. Now.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to this new conference organized by the International Council of Polish Women. Today, we will talk about abortion rights beyond borders, focusing on France and Germany. So hello again to everyone here on screen and in front of your computers. My name is Ines Roy-Levanovic, and I'm going to be the moderator of the French part of the conference, the French panel. And here with me is Anna Krenz from Germany, who will be moderating the German panel. So maybe you want to say something.
I just wanted to say hello. We are all happy that you are with us, also inside the studio of our homes and outside. And I will be moderating the German part together with Alexandra from Germany, from Munich, and also Alina and Lena from Genformation.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you also to Paulina Prescott, who's here with us today, although you can't see her on the screen. She's the technical support person. And before we start, I wanted to take a moment also to thank Joanna Lasserre and Magda Myszka for their help in the organization of the whole conference. So now let's begin with our guests from the French panel. Clotilde Normand and Violaine Lucas from Choisir la cause des femmes. You will speak about abortion rights in France. Thank you for being here. And just to start as a first question, please, could you present briefly what Choisir la cause des femmes is and what you do what are your roles in it?
Okay, thank you for your invitation. Choisir la cause des femmes defends women's rights by challenging existing laws and proposing sometimes changes to them where necessary. I am the president of the organization, and I have to propose projects for the association. And Clotilde.
Yes,
thank you, Clotilde.
I am Clotilde. I have been a lawyer for 21 years, and I joined Choisir la cause des femmes in 2005 because I was concerned by the condition of women in the world and in France. And this association was founded by Gisèle Halimi, which is a very, very famous lawyer that Violaine will talk to you about later. So I joined this association and I worked on it was in the beginning of our big project of the most favored European clause. And I started working on it, more particularly on issues of family law.
Amazing. Thank you very much for this short introduction. Now let's start directly with the topic, which is abortion in France. Can you tell us what is the situation nowadays, abortion being legal? And just can you remind us what the current law is?
So now you are able to have an abortion up to 12 weeks of pregnancy. You don't need to have a reason to ask for an abortion. When you are minors, you don't have to have the authorization of your parents, but you have to be with an adult. And for the minors, you have to think 2 days to think about your abortion. And the doctors can exercise the clause of consciousness and can refuse to practice an abortion. I don't want, Clotilde, if you want to complete or after.
So yes, I will come to it afterwards.
Okay.
Okay, so this law you just explained to us, Violaine, it is the current situation, but there was a whole history and a fight that let this happen, and there were decades of changes and movements that allowed it to happen. Could you maybe tell us what was the context back then and how the legalization became possible?
Mm-hmm. In 1971, we have a lot of feminist demonstrations, and we have abortion was a crime, but 343 women published a manifesto. It was in the magazine Le Nouvel Observateur, and the text said 1 million women have abortions each year in France. I declare that I am one of them. I declare that I have had an abortion. We demand open access to contraceptives. We demand open abortion. Some of those women were famous, such as Gisèle Halimi, the lawyers and founder of Choisir. But you have also filmmakers like Agnès Varda, actresses including Catherine Deneuve, or philosopher as Simone de Beauvoir, or writers like Marguerite Duras. But other women who were not well known were prosecuted because they signed this manifesto. So Gisèle Halimi and Simone de Beauvoir decided to create Choisir la cause des femmes to defend these women. And in 1972, Gisèle Halimi and Choisir la cause des femmes had to defend a teenager, Marie-Claire Chevalier, who had an abortion after a rape, and to defend her mother, who helped Marie-Claire to have the abortion. It was the Bobigny trial. And Gisèle Halimi and Choisir won the trial, showing that the law penalized only poor women. She asked famous people to testify that they had an abortion or helped women to have an abortion. In particular, a Catholic doctor, Professor Millez, who helped women to have an abortion. This testimony was decisive. And in 1975, abortion was legalized by Simone Veil, who were the French Minister of Health. And in the archives of Choisir la cause des femmes, we found letters of women who wrote to doctors or nurses to ask for help to have an abortion. It was in the 1970s when abortion were forbidden. And I think it's interesting to read extracts from this letter, because it you can understand the situation of the women. One of them, for example, a mother of 5 children who was 38, wrote, "I did everything I could to have a miscarriage, but it didn't work. I took some life insurance so I could commit suicide after childbirth and not leave my family in need." Or another woman who was 45 had 3 children and wrote, "I am 1 month pregnant. I am desperate. I am not able to assure the education of this other child." So you can hear in these letters the distress of these women. They beg doctors to do their abortion. They implore them, and I think that things didn't really change in some part of Europe, and I think that women tried and try again, as in Poland, to justify their situation. They were, and they are again still, ashamed to ask abortion, and they felt or feel alone. And I think that we have to support each other to stop that.
Exactly, you're right. That's that's actually one of the reasons why we are all here today, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this later on. So as we can see, the abortion in France was happened in a very complicated situation. As you said, in some places, either in France or in other countries in Europe today, some women still feel this way because they don't have access to abortion. What I was wondering was how this law you just told us about was implemented. Like, did it evolve since then? Were there any changes that were made in order to evolve to the way we see the law today?
Yes, it did. In fact, in France, we are in a paradoxical situation because over these 45 years since we obtained the right to abortion, a certain number of laws were passed to extend the abortion, to facilitate the abortion. But in practice, it becomes more and more complicated to obtain an abortion. So regarding the laws, notably the time limit to get an abortion was extended in 2001 from 10 to 12 weeks. Financially, abortion was partially taken in charge by Social Security as from 1982. 70% of the cost of the abortion was taken in charge by the Social Security. And more recently, in 2013, it is fully reimbursed. Regarding places and people entitled to practice an abortion, drug-induced abortion is authorized since 1990. Since 2004, it was authorized only in a hospital, but in 2004 it was extended to doctors, your doctor. Since 2016, midwives are authorized to practice drug-induced abortions at the hospital to extend people able to make abortions. And since last December, an experimentation is conducted authorizing midwives to practice abortion, but not only by a drug-induced way, but by vacuum aspiration. And it is an experiment that is conducted for 3 years, and we will see at the end of the 3 years if it is made permanent or not. So you see, legally speaking, we can observe constant progress to facilitate this fundamental right, but in practice, in reality, it is more and more difficult to get an abortion. So the biggest challenge to access to abortion is to access the first appointment, and the reason it's difficult is because over 15 years, the number of hospitals or establishment practicing abortion has decreased by 22%, and it is mainly for budgetary reasons. For budgetary reasons, we close maternities, and each time you close a maternity, in the same time, you close a place where you can get an abortion. Another reason is that as a general rule today, the medical community is not very interested by abortion. It's not considered a priority at all for two reasons. For first reason, if it's because it's not profitable. They don't make money. It's not well paid, so they tend to allocate money to other practices, and it's not a priority when it comes to hire a new doctor. And the second reason is that abortion still suffers a lack of consideration in the medical community, and it's even taboo for part of the medical community, and that is why we had an interesting conversation with a member of our association recently. She's a 60-plus gynecologist, and she says that when we obtained the right to abortion in 1975, we thought that it was we won the war, and that the question was going to be taken over by the medical community. But it proved wrong. And she highlighted the huge need to still have feminist association because we cannot rely only on the medical community to take abortion in charge and to fight for abortion. So the biggest problem in France is that there is less and less places offering the possibility to have an abortion, and consequently there is an unequal access to abortion in France. It's very difficult in some part of the French territory, and depending on when you live in France, it may be very difficult to get the first appointment. And if you combine it with the fact that you may detect your pregnancy late because you have irregular periods, or because you can even be pregnant and still have your periods, you can easily pass the deadline of 12 weeks. And this deadline is considered today as too short. And there was a proposition of law that was recently promoted because we estimate that about 2,000 women each year in France miss the deadline of the 12 weeks and are obliged to go abroad to get an abortion. They usually go to the Netherlands or Spain or England, and it is, of course, costly. It costs an abortion in Spain costs between 300 and 2,000 euros, not including the cost of travel. So obviously, clearly, not many women can afford this. So the proposition of law that was recently promoted aimed to extend the legal deadline from 12 to 14 weeks. As in Spain and Austria, for example. There was another aim to this proposition of law, which was to suppress the specific conscience clause, because in France we have a specific conscience clause regarding abortion. We have a general conscience clause in the sense that doctors are entitled in a general way not to accomplish an act which is contrary to their convictions, but on top of this, we have this specific clause regarding abortion. And the proposition promoted the suppression of this specific clause because it wouldn't prevent a doctor who doesn't want to practice an abortion to invoke the general conscience clause. And it could help if you suppress this specific clause, it could help reasserting that abortion is a medical act as any other, and that it could contribute to a better social acceptance of abortion. The third part of this proposition was to generalize the possibility for midwives to practice abortion by vacuum aspiration. As we saw, it's currently being experimented for 3 years, but this proposition aimed to render it permanent. So this proposition of law for the extension of the deadline to 14 weeks, for the suppression of the conscience clause, and for the right for midwives to practice abortion by vacuum aspiration has been voted by the National Assembly in last October, but it was rejected by the Senate. And to pass a law, you need to have it voted by the two chambers. So it came back to the National Assembly a second time in February, but the right-wing party completely obstructed the debates, and it finally had to be given up. It shows that in France, the French society is still very divided on this issue of abortion. But the proposition is that's not necessarily the end of it, because it could be taken over by the government, but for the time being, it's not on the agenda.
Okay, yes, that's what I was about to ask, if it was already on the agenda in order to follow up with this proposition of law, but as you said, we don't know
Not
yet.
for the time being. You know, the last debate was in February, so it's still a bit early, maybe, to see if it's going to be taken over. But we are going to enter in a electoral period because the president will be elected in 2020. So I'm not sure this is the kind of subject that they like to have raised when the election is close.
Okay, don't you think it could be a topic that, so actually you think it's a topic that isn't going to be spoken about during the elections? There's the other elections this year also, departemental. It doesn't seem like this is a topic that is that people are talking a lot about either, on a smaller scale.
No, it's never. I think an electoral topic is. It's never something that is discussed during a pre-electoral period.
Yeah.
I'm afraid.
That's an interesting fact, because, for instance, in Poland right now, where women are still fighting to have the right for abortion, this is a topic that is widely spoken about. And maybe it's linked to what you said before, that it's not only the medical, or in this case also political groups that are going to talk about this, but associations and people themselves, which is the case in Poland right now. And in France, there are associations such as Choisir la cause des femmes, for instance, that are talking a lot about abortion and fighting for the rights. Considering all these challenges that you just told us about, how does your association, Choisir, participate in improving this situation? Can you do something? And if yes, how do you participate in it?
Yes, we have this project at the European level, which we call the Most Favored European Clause, and it involves selecting from the law of the various European member state the most favorable provision to women, and abortion is obviously one of the main topics in this regard. And yes, we want to promote the best laws at the European level in many aspects of women's lives.
And why do you think that the European level could be maybe a better scale to talk about this and to fight for abortion, rather than maybe local or national wise?
It doesn't prevent from acting locally, but we would like to use the force and the audience of the European level to be stronger and to have a wider debate. So it's part of a whole, because we want to pick the best laws in each part of the women's life, or work, family, etc. And the right to the reproductive rights are part of it. So that's the way we believe that we can, on a wider level, be stronger.
Excellent. Before asking my next question, I'm seeing here a comment from Joanna Lasserre, who is asking if the women in France are less motivated with the whole abortion issue, because it seems like it's not an important subject in the public debate. So do one of you want to answer this, maybe? I don't know if, in your opinion, women in France are less motivated about the topic.
No, I don't think they are less motivated about the topic, but it is true that we believe that rights are forever, but it is not the fact. And maybe there is more need to talk about it. It is true that the fact that we had this proposition of law made that there was more article in press about abortion. But when you discuss with young girls, they are very, very attached to this right. And I'm sure that we can motivate young women in this fight as well.
And I think maybe it's also because Me Too and the consequences of Me Too, now it's the first topic, I think, in the feminist organizations. And we have about the incest too, with the book of Camille Kouchner. So I think that the abortion, it's not the first question in the feminist organization now, but I think it's always a question and a problem, and we have to continue to fight and to defend these rights.
Exactly. I think it's really important what you're saying, because during the panel we made on abortion with the International Council of Polish Women for the March 8th, we were speaking about abortion rights with some activists from Spain, Argentina, Chile. I don't remember all of them, but and we were actually trying to see how the fight for abortion rights is being held in different places. And one of the conclusions was that actually we can't stop fighting for this, because there's always a risk that we're going to go backwards again, just like it's happening in Poland now. So yes, this is really interesting what you're saying. And it made me think also, Violaine, oh yeah, Joanna Lasserre is saying that she was thinking about the Me Too movement, which actually, yes, it was really global. And I think here it's linked again with what you were saying, the fact that you are trying to work on the European level, and maybe this bigger scale could help somehow in keeping some topics that are less spoken in some countries, to make them be more popular again. Do you think, for instance, that what is happening currently in Poland, like for the past several months, what's happening in Poland, could have somehow put the abortion topic on the table again in France, not only the law, the proposition of law?
I'm not sure to understand everything, but
I can repeat if you want. I can repeat my question.
No, if I understand, I think that now with the danger of the far right, maybe women can be more attentive to what happened in Poland. Because it's the same political party that who attack the women rights, and maybe in this context, Europe can help women to fight with the abortion rights. But I'm not sure, because with the lockdown, there is a sort of je sais pas comment dire, repli, Clotilde,
of
and
some backward movement.
Yes,
in a way.
And it's very difficult to speak about European Union now, and to think to the solidarity with the European women. It's very difficult, I think, to defend this fight. I don't know the word.
I think it's quite clear.
We continue, and we don't want to stop. It's very important to continue to prepare the future.
So concretely, currently, what are you doing? Who are you working with? Maybe, I don't know, European institutions or some other organizations in other European countries. What are the next steps for you in this fighting on a European level?
Since 1 year. We work to actualize the analysis, the comparative analysis of the rights of women in Europe, and we have to return in the European institutions, and we have also to to speak with the different political party that take the project in their program, their political program, and it's. We wrote the book and published the book in 2008, and the project was inscribed in the different program of different political party, but we don't have news about the project at the political in the European Parliament, and the next step is to return to the European Parliament and ask with the political party that inscribe the principle of the most favored European clause, women, and to say, what after? What are you doing? Because yes, it's. I think that the European Parliament can do more for harmonize by the top the women's rights in Europe, and I think it's a true fight. It's maybe the more important thing to do, but there are no. There's a lot of problems, and I think that they try, but I think it's not enough. And I think that we have to support the Polish feminists, and we have to say that it's not enough. They don't work enough, I think.
Okay. I hope maybe someone from there is listening or watching us today, and maybe will hear you. Okay. I think that's a good way to maybe end up the French panel for now. We will have a moment to speak a little bit more with both of you at the end of the conference. But just to conclude really fast what has been said here about the case in France, which is that we need more associations, organizations fighting for this, because it's not a topic which is on top of the priorities either for the people or the politicians. And this is why you are working on a kind of lobby, if I may say, on an international level directly with the European Union, that we hope can listen to you and maybe work on it some more, probably after the pandemic. So this is a good transition, I think, to give the microphone to Anna, who will speak about Germany, yet another case, another situation of abortion rights.
Yes, hello. It is true. Abortion is quite a thing in Germany because it is illegal. It is simply illegal. Abortion is being it is being regulated in a German penal code. So when we talk about abortion and you think about Germany, one thinks, Germany is such a liberal country, things are good, but they are not. And abortion has been illegal since many years because the paragraph, we will talk about 2 paragraphs today from the penal code, German penal code. And we meet today because on May 15th, there is a celebration which I could call an anti-anniversary of the paragraph 218. It's 150 years of this law, which makes abortion a criminal act. And that's why we will talk about the law, but also about the real life situation in Germany. And I would like to welcome our guests, Alexandra Ratajak, who is a member of International Council of Polish Women, but she's also studying law, and she knows all about the paragraphs. And she will tell us more about this. And I also want to welcome Alina and Lena from Ginformation. It's a queer collective, and you will find out why. Soon you will find out why their job is so important, why access to real, honest, and autonomous information about medical treatment, mostly abortion, is such a crucial issue in Germany. Because it's not so easy. It's not really possible for doctors to inform about methods of abortion. So, but first we will talk about the paragraph 218, which makes abortion a criminal act. So, Alexandra, would you tell us first a little about yourself and then explain us and the viewers, what is this paragraph? Why is it? Well, it is 150 years of it, and yeah, it should be gone, this paragraph. But why is it such a bad thing to have it?
Sure. So I'll start. My name is Alexandra. I'm studying law and specialization on European law and international law, and I'm living currently in Munich. Well, yeah, as you said before, we have the paragraph 218 and 219, 219 and 219A. And 218 and 219 regulates our abortion. 219A is something else that we'll talk about later on. But 218 basically says abortion is illegal, point. But there are some exceptions, and these exceptions are also written in the penal code, which makes it a little bit, as you said, let's say funny in the 21st century when you say Germany is such a democratic. And then they
Apologies, Alexandra. Your mic is not working very well.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you just say one sentence slowly so we can make sure?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, that seems better. Let's try again. Apologies. Last 20 to 25 seconds of your speech will not be legible, sorry.
Okay, so I think
Sorry. We're having trouble hearing you, Alexandra. Apologies. Yeah, so I'm sorry. I'm just gonna give the mic back to Anya so she can maybe quickly say what you were going to say, okay?
Yes, I can only imagine what you wanted to say. Alexandra, we could not hear you at all. So
okay.
I will try to summarize. Maybe, yes, maybe you can try again. I have no idea. There's something wrong with your mic. However, I will try to summarize the paragraph. Huh? Oh, maybe you should turn your video off for a second, because it's quite important what you have to say. It's the base of our. Try now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just kind of continue.
Okay, no, there's something wrong. Maybe you should log in again. Maybe, I have no idea. Maybe you can try that, or get the earphones.
Headset, microphone, like a headset or earphones. I think that might be the problem.
Okay. Yeah, we don't hear anything.
Just
Okay, Alexandra, maybe she will log in again. So basically quite simple. The paragraph or section 218 of the German penalty code, which is being placed, I don't know, among other sections about murder or abandonment. Why is this in a penalty code? It has been decided already 120 years ago. And if you look at Germany, the history of Germany, yeah, how the law changed, you could, of course, draw parallels to Poland and see which country went more liberal and which country came in more traditional. But this law has been changing and evolving similarly to different countries around. And there were times when it was like during the war, abortion was totally illegal in Germany, obviously, because it was not good for Aryan and the German women to abort. That's Hitler wanted to have the race, but for example, it was possible for Polish women in that time to have abortion. Later on, when Germany split into eastern and western part, the eastern part, the socialist part, was more liberal. The German part, the Western German, not German part, the Western Germany was more conservative. And after the unification, unfortunately, the more traditional law, paragraph 218, was being taken over for the whole country. What does it mean? Okay, paragraph 218 says abortion is legal. Unless, and there are exceptions, yes? If you, kind of similar like in Poland, abortion is possible or it is, well, it is not legal, but it's not, you don't go to jail if the abortion is being made due to medical reasons, due to criminal reasons, or if you have pregnancy conflict. Well, in Germany, it is a beautiful word, which I don't really like. It's a talk with a specialist that you have 3 days before making an abortion, and it's called pregnancy conflict counseling. Why is it a conflict? Okay, however, in German, it's called Schwangerschaftskonfliktberatung. And this is something you have to do 3 days before. Yeah, and then you get a paper, and then 3 days later you can have an abortion, but not made by yourself. It has to be made by a doctor. So if you don't do one of these things, then you might go to jail. Yeah, I mean, you go to jail. I hope Alexandra will now take over. I just said it very quickly. You can go into details.
Okay, I hope you can hear me now. Okay, now it's good. I'm sorry, it was my device. So as you said, we have like, it's basically in the penal code, as I said before, but we have exceptions where you can have an abortion. And these exceptions are when you have this counseling and there's a certificate, after 3 days you can have an abortion. Or there's written that, for example, your doctor says you cannot have an abortion because it will risk your life or your mental health, or there's any other issue. And basically the first one, the counseling part, you can ask for an abortion until you're the 12th week of pregnancy. The second one is, let's say, without a time. So for example, when your doctor says after, for example, the 13 or 14 week, you cannot have this child, or you cannot carry the pregnancy, you can have an abortion also at this time, but this is an exception. Then we have the criminal induction. It's called induction, also the medical induction in the criminal code. And we have the criminal induction, which says if the pregnancy was caused by an illegal act, it means, for example, rape, then you can have an abortion. And this is also, there's also a timeline for this abortion that's until the 12th week of the pregnancy. And there's also another one, the counseling part of the official counsel. And there's like a little bit of difference between the counseling institutions, and it's also written in the penal code, but there's a little bit of details that I don't want to go into. Yeah, and that's basically like the exemptions. And yeah, that's it. And an important part is that the health insurance is not covering the abortion when it comes to counseling. So for example, when you want to have an abortion because you are in this first group of the induction, but not in the second, the third. So not the criminal, not the medical from your doctor that says, okay, it will, like, you could die. You have to pay for your abortion. This is in Germany like 350 to 500 euros. For the other parts, your health insurance will pay. Exactly. And if you want, I can go to the problematic part, but I'll let it up to you, Anya.
Yes, of course. Then in that situation, when with the counseling, you pay for the abortion by yourself, unless you can prove that you earn too little, and then you get some help with paying for abortion. You don't have to do it by yourself. You see. Okay, we will go to gene formation. I just wanted to say that the problem with 218 and the counseling is that in Germany, there are not so many places that you can get counseling. Some of them reject, and some of the counseling places, like the Christian ones, they reject to give you the paper, or they treat you like, why would you, as a person that wants to have to get the abortion, you have to explain your reasons, and somebody says, oh yeah, all right, you get the paper, we believe you, or we think it's true what you're saying, or it's really relevant. That's why we fight against that paragraph, because of course counseling is not a bad thing, but the question is who is doing it and how people are treated in that situation. This self-explaining and proving that you are right with your own decision, that your self-determination is correct. That's quite difficult, especially now when the anti-choice movements are growing, and in Germany as well, not only in Germany, in other countries too. That's why I would like to know what Alina and Lena, what do you think? First, please, if you could tell a little bit about yourself, and then have your opinion on that paragraph that we want to get rid of.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anna and Alex. So we are an activist queer feminist collective based in Germany, and we basically think that every kind of gynecological treatment is an extremely can be intimate, can be challenging for people with different experiences in the medical sector. And we realized that a lot of people we know were speaking about bad experiences. And we knew of a activist collective in France, actually. They are called Gynéco, and they hold a list of feminist gynecologists since for a long time. They've been doing this work, and I have been living in France and was shocked to see that in Germany we didn't have that. And when I realized 1.5 years ago, when we came together as a group, it was also inspired by the case of Christina Henel, which we can maybe come back to with Alex afterwards, who had been punished for publishing information about her abortion practice, her medical practice. I realized that this kind of list that our French colleagues are doing would be even more crucial to a German context, because when we list abortion as one of, let's say, 20 or 30 gynecological treatments that we want to have positive recommendations for, and let people know that, oh, this and that gynecologist does, let's say, amazing treatment when you have cancer, or they are really good for treatment of endometriosis, or if you use a wheelchair and you're looking for an accessible gynecologist cabinet, you could go there, or whatever. So we realized one of these treatments that we care about, that we wanted to list, was abortion, obviously. But then we realized super quickly that for us this posed a lot of questions related to the German law. And we took that decision as an activist collective to include that treatment method explicitly to our database of recommendations. So we are not only working on that topic of abortion, but we want to have the right to a respectful treatment, what you just mentioned, Anna, a good atmosphere in every kind of medical treatment, an awareness of for any kind of discrimination that could play a role in any kind of medical treatment, sexism, racism, ableism, transphobia and all of these other things that come into play when we are in this situation as a patient.
And maybe just to add to this, I think the problem is now the information about how to get an abortion is so kept kind of in the hands of those counseling institutions, and then there's one list that you can get an address from where you can get an abortion, the German white list, and then there's others for some cities, but they are, it's really hard to find those lists online, to search in them. They are not accessible at all. It's really hard to get your information and so on. And for us, it's even like, we need even more information than just an address. But even this address is so hard to find already. And then on top, of course, you don't have many people who practice abortions anymore in Germany because of these anti-feminist groups that are really being kind of working against that. So for us, this is all connected because we are trying to make all this information available and accessible in a more easy way also, but then also connected to information that I usually don't get from Pro Familia or whatever, because if I have the experience of being discriminated in medical treatments, of course, I'm even more vulnerable to all those problems. And in that case, I really need to have someone I trust, for that treatment, because it's so stigmatized on top of everything else.
I guess you could say that what so-called women's health movement has done, like having lists with people who offer abortions, is something that we still need today. And we need that list not only for abortions, but for any kind of gynecological treatment, because there are excellent gynecologists, but there are also a lot of bad experiences in the medical sector, because medicine has a colonial history, has a sexist and a queer-phobic and transphobic history, and we need to really change the kind of healthcare in general. And I think we're really talking about reproductive health from all of these perspectives. We need to get all this knowledge together and kind of create some kind of revolution of this healthcare system that we're currently working with.
Absolutely, this is so important. I can only confirm what you're saying. I live in Germany also, I know. I mean, there was a question from Joanna. It moved away from our screen, but she asked about what is the attitude of doctors exactly, what is the attitude of doctors in Germany regarding abortion in general? Probably, I can imagine maybe she's asking, well, you understand the question, but maybe also about, do we have the conscience clause in Germany? Not really, not this. But anyway, what's the general attitude? Can you think about it?
It's hard to say, like, to generalize, of course.
Yeah.
Many great practice doctors who are really fighting for this cause, like Christina Hähnl and many others. So there are a lot of great people who are like working with us. But of course, what is the sound somehow? A child or something? No, it's not.
Yeah, it's my son. I'm sorry.
Okay, good. I was just irritated. But of course, it's first of all, it's not something that you learn when you study medicine, or become a gynecologist. So you have to actually go and take another seminar to learn how to do that, to do an abortion. So it's something you have to be like really active and involved in. And then there's of course this anti-feminist movement. So you are also not in an easy position if you do it in many places, especially in many rural areas of Germany. And then there's of course some, I don't think it's the biggest part actually, that are like Christian doctors who don't want to practice it. This is not the biggest problem we have actually. The biggest problem is the anti-feminist movement and the laws now, and the structural problems within the medical institutions, and also in the Ausbildung, in the education of the doctors, yes.
You are very right with education. I mean, if you look at oh wait, can you talk about the colonial past in the medicine, please? Okay, well, yeah, please answer this and I'll go back to my note.
Yes, we can quickly. We are not historians nor doctors, but I mean, especially in gynecology, there's a history of reproductive rights, and a lot of research has been done actually with women of color who were not agreeing, who were mistreated during this research as objects. And for example, there's this one gynecologist who is sometimes called the father of gynecology. His name is James Marion Sims, and his statue has been removed from I think from Central Park, if I'm not mistaken, because finally the history of his research came to light. And there's, of course, different examples that have also been largely ignored by the white feminist movement in parts, who had been fighting for their right to abort in the United States, but didn't consider at all the need of Black women to fight after the slavery, to fight for their right to have children at all. Or if you think about the development of the contraception pill, the anti-baby pill, which had, to my knowledge, been developed largely in populations in Puerto Rico. Because what was mentioned in the talk before, like in the Nazi era in Germany, there's always an agenda in reproductive rights and in population, like which women are supposed to reproduce and which are not supposed to reproduce. So that's and there's also a history of sterilization. We have a history of forced sterilization on disabled women in Germany, and we have to be aware when we fight this fight that we have a history as a movement, and we need to consider all of this. And yeah, so I think it's important to talk about a colonial continuity, an ableist continuity in medicine as a system.
Absolutely. The history of our civilization, also medicine, it tells us a lot about how countries, how people, how patriarchy is dealing with us, with people, women or people who can give birth, how our bodies are being treated as a ball in a game of some whatever mighty things. We will have to move to our second part and to the second paragraph that we will talk about, because the time is running. I just wanted to quickly, exactly, we'll go back to it. Just quickly finishing that section about medicine. We have to remember that in Germany, that's true. There is not much education for doctors to learn how to make an abortion. And that's why, for example, medical students for choice from Berlin Charité, they learn by themselves. They meet and they learn, they take papaya, they physically learn it because they are not being taught. In Germany, and there are less and less practices, doctors who actually do abortion. So that's a problem, but we said that as well. Okay, so let's move to the paragraph 219A. That's also the one that should go because it's unbelievable. It's so fake. It's so bad that Alex, would you tell us about why is it pointless, that paragraph?
So 219A is basically a paragraph about promoting, advertising, or let's say talk about information about abortion in Germany. And it's basically not legal. So when you, for example, as a doctor until the year 2019, wanted to write on your website, I do abortions, it was illegal. You could or pay a fine or go to prison. And there was the case, the Christina Händel case in the year 2017, but was ruled in 2019. She basically wrote on her website that she's doing an abortion and what kind of abortion. And the pro-life movement picked it up, and she got a fine. Because this is illegal, and considering the paragraph 219 in the Penal Code of Germany. And then there was a huge debate in Germany. Everything was crazy. The whole movement flamed up again because people were going on the streets in the sense of we are having this 21st century, but it's still illegal to talk about abortion, and it's still illegal to write that the doctor is doing an abortion. So how the hell have I, sorry for my language, but how I'm supposed to know who is making an abortion and who not? And this was a little bit all over media in the year 2019. So our coalitions, so our parties in the parliament, we're talking about, in the government, we're talking about how to change it. And basically, the Christian party didn't want to change it at all, but they had a compromise, and the compromise was, okay, we add under section 4. So it means you can write at your website, for example, that you are doing an abortion, but it's still illegal to tell how that you are doing it. So what are you using, or which kind of abortion are you making, because there are different ones. And if you want somebody to know, you have to have a link. And this is the link that the speakers before are talking about, so Alina and Elena. There's a list of doctors who are doing abortions in Germany, and there will be like a neutral state information about what kind of abortion they are. And the problem with this link is basically that many doctors don't want to be listed also in this list, because it's a perfect target for pro-life people to know, okay, who is exactly doing what kind of abortion and where can I find them. So of course doctors are scared, and as you said, many doctors don't do it because it's not a part of education system in the medicine, so you have to do the so-called papaya courses, as you told, and many are scared to do it because they are scared of the movements that are against them, that are more and more powerful. And especially when the far-right movement arises again in Europe, also the pro-life movement arises with the extremist part. And yeah, also it's very in the critique, because it's a stigmatization of women. And well, you take our capacity to judge whether I can say if I want an abortion or not. And also it can lead to misinformation due to the lack of information, or this, let's say, filtered information. And people get scared. Also, the information then it's mostly in German. And for migrant women, it's really a problem to get like a, let's say, a neutral opinion on that. Also in the counseling centers, they need also the abortion. When they want to have an abortion, they need a translation. And well, this 219, as you said, is a paragraph that should be gone, because it's, in the end, it leads to misinformation. And due to this compromise in the end, what changed is it got more restrictive, because before that it was quite in a, let's say, gray area. What can I say about abortion? What can I not say about abortion? And now it's really restrictive because it's written in the law. Yeah, you cannot say what methods you are using. So it's, in the end, through the compromise, the law got more restrictive. But since I've seen, and I have to always check up on my law books, I have to change it more often. This year it was changed, I guess, one time, or at least in the past 2 years it was changed at least 2 times. So now there's a ruling since February. Also the Katharina Handel case, it went to our Supreme Court, and now maybe, let's hope, it could be ruled as unconstitutional.
Yes, Christina Handel, she wants to go to a constitutional tribunal with a case, which might be an institution that will deal with this, because that might be the end station for this, and maybe the debate will change and maybe the law will be changed. But you see, information, the difference between information and advertising is the 21st century. And how can you have such a big country in the middle of Europe like Germany and that the government does not see the difference in the modern world, when we have social media, when we have artificial intelligence, fake news and deep fakes, and they don't see the difference between information and advertising. That's why it's so important what you do with Ginformation, that you provide information. You actually do something that the doctors can't do. And in a way, yeah, and that's why your job, your activity is so important. Yes, would you exactly in that context of 219A? Would you comment on this, and how does this? I understand that you work exactly because of this paragraph, but would you tell us more about how is it in real life, in practice, with this what you're doing?
I think first of all, I just wanted to add that at the moment, because of this restrictive law, the people informing about abortions are the pro-life movement, the anti-feminist movement that you find. When you Google abortion in German, you find information by those people first. And that's a problem, So there are lists of people who are doing abortions online, but it's kind of a list to point out who is doing it so you can go and protest from an anti-feminist perspective. So of course, there's a need of queer feminist initiatives who are providing information about that. And of course, as we said, we're not only working around this issue of the abortion issue, but for reproductive rights in a more general sense. And I'm just reading that we're over time or something. So
yes. Okay. Okay, so yes, the time runs very quickly. We could talk for hours and hours about the situation in Germany because it's like an endless story of things happening around. We just all have to remember that the anti-choice movement is really strong in Germany. Just one example is like in September, on the 19th of September every year, there's a huge March for Life being organized in Berlin, and there are people being brought in buses, like even from Poland. The buses are coming with people and they march through the city, and it's a huge anti-choice campaign. And you see that also in the daily life. Also, if you go to a counter demonstration on that day, you can see this even in the police attitude, that they allow the anti-choice people to go through, but they stop us, and they are being a little bit more violent towards people who try to block the anti-choice people. So things happen on many levels. And at the moment, what we have in the parliament, in the Bundestag, what is happening at the moment, that there is an Antrag in English. Well, there's a paper from the Die Linke, the left party, is being now proceeded in the parliament. And because in Germany we have a whole year of September will be election months for Germany. It's an election year. So I hope that the debate about abortion will come up again. And it's actually something for us activists to do as well. We should push them, the politicians, a little bit more, because it's the time now that we can actually ask for something. We can push them, and that's what we tried to do also in 2 days in front of Reichstag at the demonstration. But if you now, if you would think, all three of you, is there anything that we can? What would you imagine could happen? How can we get rid of these paragraphs? That's not easy because it has to go through the Bundestag. But how can we act? How can we help the world and people in Germany, women and people who can get pregnant, to have a better life? Huge information, you do it very well because it's very important. What else can we do? Do you think there's anything else we can do?
I think it's very important to connect. So the work you are doing here internationally is super important. I think it can't be overestimated. We also have to think about reproductive health and these kind of fight in an intersectional way. So I think we should also pay attention, maybe in the upcoming discussions, to also have BPOC women and trans people and non-binary people and disabled people being part of these conversations. I think we should also acknowledge the work that has been done by generations before us and have a productive transmission of this knowledge even if we're also in a critique of some parts of these movements, we have to acknowledge the work they've been doing and also build up on that, and also realize how many activist groups are actually working right now at the present for the right to sterilization, for the right to competent and respectful knowledge about transitioning in gynecology, for the right for a respectful treatment for sex workers, for all kinds of rights for, you know, HIV positive people in gynecology and other medical sectors. So there's so much going on in terms of activist movements. At least I can speak for Germany, Switzerland. We had a great contact last week. And I think this kind of force and intersectional knowledge on that has been built by trans people during the last decades, by disabled people and by Black people intervening into this medical sector, we have to bring that to the front and also unite internationally, I would say.
Yeah, I can just repeat, like, it's so important to have queer voices, to have voices of people of color, to have trans voices. It's very important that we still accept that we're still learning, that it's so beautiful, that we know a lot. And I mean, in for example, in Germany, we know it was illegal, now it's kind of illegal, as you already saw, but we came a path that we cannot ignore, and we have to go forward. And this means education. I think education on a level as such, as we call it, generation acceptance, generation tolerance, that we talk about these issues, that we talk with different people about it, and through talking, through information, we can grow up in a society that might see these issues maybe in 10 years, maybe 50 years. I'm so hopeful, see them in a different manner. And well, yeah, for example, this panel is already a great possibility to talk about this on a more international level. And yeah, we just have to keep going.
Amazing. Thank you very much to all of you. I think, in my case, for instance, I've learned so much. I had no idea about what the situation was in Germany. We have, I think, today learned a lot about both Germany and France, and actually we can see some similarities between the two countries. The fact that abortions, although they are legal, they are getting there's less and less abortion practiced in both countries, not always for the same reasons, although that is a constant and something I think we can see in other countries. But still, the fight continues with thanks to people like all of you and the associations you're representing, with the new agenda, a new agenda for the future, with the law that is on hold in France that will maybe change some things, and in Germany this is a constitutional court case, which we hope also will make an impact. Anna, I don't know if you wanted to say something more to conclude, or any of you maybe. Yeah.
The conclusion also could be, from what we've learned from France and Germany, is that you're right, it's quite similar, but there are also differences. And well, kind of the Germany case, it's kind of a surprise for many that abortion is illegal. And I think the problem with it is also, apart from the fact that it is so, and that's the problem with the law, but it's also the problem about information, which is not going out to the world about what happens in Germany, for example, and the subject of abortion and that law, which is useless. Well, it should go away. It's not being communicated in the media. That's my impression in Germany. The feminist subjects are absent in mainstream media. It's only in professional magazines or papers, but mainstream is still silent, really, kind of. Well, maybe it's not politically correct, or maybe there is no drama for the moment for the media, which follow the drama of the media. but I think it should be spoken more so that more people, I think even in Germany, people do not know that it's illegal to have an abortion unless you do this and this and that. So yeah, we need more talking about it. We need more media. We need more something. Well, with the Poland, it was different because something happened. The Constitutional Tribunal simply ruled out 98% of all abortions of the actually. Now, so it basically banned abortion. So that news came all over the world. But in countries where the situation is still not dramatic for a moment, it's quite difficult to tell the world. That's why we try to do it in circles like this, because it's important. Because if we see how similar our countries are, and then we can see who is the dark force behind it. Well, it's not one person, but what are the networks that are trying to limit women's rights and try to, well, patriarchic institutions and organizations and networks who play with our bodies, as I said before. Who is it? Well, apart from Agenda Europe and kind of fanatic religious people, if we can recognize them, we can maybe fight together against that. Maybe we'll be more effective if we know who is it and how they work and how can we work together. Yeah. Well, we can say that Ordo Iuris is one of the Agenda Europe networks. It's a very ultra-Catholic organization, Ordo Iuris. Can we say who is funding it? No, because we'll have a lawsuit.
I don't know if we can say it, but I don't think that is...
no, it's not. I'm finishing.
The most important for now, although this point, I think...
Bye.
Very well, exactly, and I think this is a perfect way of ending this conference by showing that, like all of you here, maybe one of the ways of making the situation better is to just have an impact on the policies that are made, and that's what all of you are, in your way, I think, doing or trying to do. So thank you very much for all your work, for being here today with us. And good luck with everything. Thank you also to all of you who are listening to us. And I think we can... Oh yeah, sorry, I was forgetting about May 15th. So maybe Anna, you can say something about it.
I just mentioned, I will say it again, May 15th, it's the 150th anti-anniversary of the paragraph 218. And we will be standing in Berlin. And if you standing and protesting to get rid of this paragraph, will be at 11 o'clock in front of Reichstag. But if any of you want to join our campaign, we'll be posting on internet. Please join us and make exactly what I just did. So it means write paragraph 218 on the paper, make a video, or this time not with a beautiful paper, but just we are destroying that paragraph. So if you want to be in solidarity with people in Germany, women and people who can get pregnant in Germany, have it and have a hashtag Wegmit 218. We'll post it on our website here as well. And I hope maybe any of you want to comment as well for the last round, and you're the other speakers. And I want to say thank you. You are all brilliant. And I've learned a lot.
Anyone?
Yeah.
Okay, so Anna, your words were the last words of today's conference. Again, thank you all for being here on our screens or in front of your computers or any other device you may be watching this on. And we'll keep in touch because on May 15th, there are going to be things happening. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.